Welcome back to another
Look.
edition of Zero Blog 30, where today we have two rounds of the magazine. Round number one, we're going to talk about what's happening in Palestine and Israel and how the U.S. is getting more involved with that by shooting down drones and all kinds of stuff. Lots of developments there. And then we're going to get into the curious case of Travis King. We talked about it a few weeks ago. He was the soldier who voluntarily, shockingly, went to one of the, I would say, top three places on earth you probably shouldn't go: the Taliban, Iran, and North Korea. Maybe Russia
I thought
now
you were going
too.
to say North Jersey.
Oh yeah, you got to stay away from there too. I've heard the pizza's not nearly as good as it is in Connecticut, which is just right
No, I
up
got
the road.
out. Thank God.
Yeah. We have a lot of stuff going on today, but before we do that, I have a couple things that I want to talk to you guys about at the top of the show. Okay.
If it's about safe sex, it's already too late.
True. Okay. You didn't listen to the safety brief. Every major holiday we've said safe sex is great set, so you better wear latex because you don't want that latex that I think I'm latex.
That being said, what this is about?
No, it's not what it's about. It's about cons, football integrity, Marines, and the University of Michigan. You were fired up, cons. You were fired up. Tell the people what happened. You did such a good job of the Real Housewives of New York little backstory last week. Let's put it to the sports mode, and you could tell us what you found to be an integrity violation, essentially.
Yeah. So, I mean, like in football, pretty much at every level, it varies on each level, but there are different actions that I think could be classified as gamesmanship. And one of those things is if you figure out another team's signals during the course of a game and you're able to adjust off of learning those signals, I think that's well within the bounds of the integrity of the game. But the University of Michigan apparently had this dude, and I'm not going to say what school he went to, but it wasn't my school. He had a job with the University of Michigan football team where he was going to opponents' games that Michigan was not playing in and recording the opposing team's signals ahead of their games. Now, listen, when I was a grad assistant, one of my responsibilities during the week was to look at an opponent's game film, break it down. You had to chart everything, got put into a computer program that spit out all the statistics of tendencies and everything of that nature. And that's done across the board all over the country. And one of the things, because you get two views, you get the sideline view, and then you get the all 22 view. So could you, in theory, maybe, especially nowadays, I mean, when I was breaking down film, this is in, 06. So I have to imagine, with the advent of HD cameras, the film's gotten even more clear. So could you probably get signals and things of that nature from watching film? Maybe, but to an extent. But if you're in the stadium and that's all you're watching, and there are laws on the books that say you cannot do this. So I am not in favor of openly cheating. Gamesmanship, I think there's a fine line between gamesmanship and openly cheating. And from the details that we currently have as of Monday, October 23rd, is that this cat from the University of Michigan, who, by the way, Marine, and again, I'm not going to say where he went to school.
Naval Academy.
You said it, not me. He deliberately broke rules. So I'm not in favor of deliberately breaking rules.
Listen, I just got to say one thing about this. It shows Academy folks, I don't know if you can trust them. Two officers. This guy wasn't an enlisted fella. He was an officer doing it. And I will say, even though it was breaking the rules, sometimes Marines have been told, even if it's a rule, it's mission accomplishment and then troop welfare. If the mission is to figure out, maybe this guy had a little bit of good initiative, bad judgment, where Jim Harbaugh was like, do the best you can, see if we can have anything pregame that's going to help us, that is going to go above and beyond. And this devil dog was like, you know what, sir? I'm going to go out and I'm going to get you every signal. He's just basically being advanced recon, which you're not supposed to do law of war, but we do it all the time. It's intel.
I would say
gathering intel.
I would say it's probably, I don't know why you keep bringing up that he's a Marine. It's probably not his fault. He probably read Message to Garcia, in which
Right.
you just do what you're told. And I'm guessing somebody ordered a code red and he was just following orders.
Not for nothing. That is entirely possible because I don't know that this little whippersnapper had the gumption to do this on his own, because there is very much a chain of command in a football coaching staff. And if he's going to all these games, that wouldn't be inexpensive. Somebody's got to be paying for those flight tickets and tickets to get into the game, because he was buying tickets to go into the game. So it's very much could be a top-down situation. And if that's the case, bad look for the men of Michigan.
Yeah, and I think one thing about Jim Harbaugh, if they get him on the stand, I hope he's not like, look, I have no idea the travel plans of PFC Santiago. And talk about how, is this about phone calls, foot lockers, and football signs? I think that's what old Colonel Harbaugh needs to say. Yeah. Overall, with sports cheating, I know I should care. I know it's part of the integrity of the game. I didn't care when players were juiced to the gills in the MLB. I hope to God now that USADA is going to not be the drug testing and the performance enhancing drug tester of the UFC. I hope those guys get juiced and ladies get juiced just like they do in the Brazilian jiu-jitsu tournaments in Abu Dhabi. I would love it. I think it'd make even more. Francis Ngannou on steroids, he might take somebody's head clean off. Just clean off.
Special Forces is doing it.
Who is?
Special Forces, and they're great dudes, right? You know?
True, yeah. Steroids, not bad. Do a lot of cheating stuff. Second, did a little light reading this weekend. Now, Kate, if I said, best you can, an oral history of toilet paper, what do you say?
I know that back during like Roman or ancient Greek times, they had these public shitters. And then in the middle, you know, when you go to the gas station and they have the blue water with the scrub brush that everybody uses on their cars, they didn't have toilet paper. They had these public bathrooms. And in the middle was one big long bristle brush in this barrel of water. And when you got done shitting, you came out, you picked up that bristle brush, you scrubbed your ass crack with it, and you put it back. You cleaned it off a little. Next person comes out. They grab that same brush. They're cleaning their butt crack. I heard people got sick. Heard it wasn't great. So they said, we got to find another way. And so I think for the longest time, people have been using leaves would be my guess. Because nobody likes a poopy butt.
I completely agree, Kate. And this came about because a couple of weeks ago, I was having a conversation and I said that I don't like smells. I don't think there is any, I think that we don't like poop because it's an evolutionary trait based on society. And I don't think that just poop in and of itself stinks. And I think the history of toilet paper really shows that in the, and I know Kate's face, if you're not watching on YouTube, Kate's face is flabbergasted. Allow me to unpack it just a little bit, Catherine, if I may.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Go on.
So you're right. In ancient cultures, including Greece and Rome, people commonly used water in their hands for cleaning after the restroom. They would pour water on their hands first and then wipe their butts. Because at first I thought, we're wiping butts and then we're putting water on it and it's not cleaning it. But now you're not like spackling it out of there.
Right.
Essentially. Right.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. I think they did a good job there. Second, plant leaves. Kate's absolutely right again. In some regions, people use large soft leaves to form toilet paper. We all know that. Everybody knows that. Now, what do you think if I told you early American colonization in the 1700s, what was their primary toilet paper? What would you say?
Corn husks.
Ooh.
Corn cobs? How do you know that? Not husk. Husk would make way more sense.
Yeah. The actual cob.
Oh, the cob. Yeah. Good bumps to it. Yeah. It's perfectly ass crack shaped. You rotate it around a little bit like you're getting butter on it. Sure.
When I
Yeah.
first saw corn cobs, it blew my mind. I thought I was on like The Onion or something.
I'll tell you what, that's extremely presumptuous though too. Like, oh, the crop's just going to be so good that not only will we have enough corn to eat, but we'll have enough corn to use on our tushes as well. I mean, one bad winter, and what are you doing? You're like, oh, we can't eat all that corn. That's the bathroom, the outhouse corn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They probably did have it separated to different piles of which one was better. Corn cob blew my damn mind. Ancient Romans, Kate, is correct in saying that they were known to have a sponge attached to a stick as an ancient toilet paper. So they had poop stick, essentially. That's a different type of poop stick.
Community poop stick.
Yep. Next up, we're getting a little bit closer. Now we're in the 19th century. In many societies, reusable cloth rags were used for personal hygiene. These could be washed and reused. And if there wasn't any around, people in society would use their sleeve, wipe, and then continue on with the rest of their day.
That's crazy.
I, on TikTok, am seeing a trend of, people reuse diapers and use cloth diapers.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a toilet paper roll, but thicker, and they're buttoned together, the pieces, and people are starting to do reusable toilet paper again.
Yeah, that's people with bad septic tanks have to do that too.
Yep. Yep.
But I had a because that really goes to show that I think it's cultural and it's something that we've adapted more recently, that poop stinks. Because if so many people in society were doing that, it became a common smell. You know, everybody was smelling like poop. Nobody was using deodorant. You didn't have access to clean showers all day.
That was in the big time orgy days too.
Right. And BO didn't bother anybody. Sweaty balls didn't bother anybody. And even these people were disgusting in the 1700s, just walking around with poop sleeves.
Yeah. I think we just unfairly think of them as all these like very regal individuals who carried themselves with the utmost class at all times, when in fact they were just very disgusting.
Yeah, John Hancock probably smelled like poopy.
Yeah,
he did.
George Washington probably smelled like poopy.
You know, it's something I learned.
Betsy Ross.
Yeah,
smelled like
shitty.
In fatherhood, and actually, no one said this to me. Maybe one person did before Maggie was born, but I am so not adverse to anything that comes out of my daughter. Snot, poop, anything. I'm just like, well, you get right in there, and it doesn't bother me. Where if it was another adult or another child, I'd probably be like, oh, that's gross a little bit. No, nothing.
Have you done the booger sucker thing?
Alex does that one. I've done it, but Alex
remember that was my main fear before having my son. I used that thing 24/7 when he was little.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Sucking out snot's the best, right?
I'll also say, real quick on the toilet paper talk, to circle it back into military. On the Yak the other day, the guys were asking, like, what's the craziest thing you ever wiped with? And military people who are stuck on, like, I've heard so many smoke pit stories of people ripping their sleeves, using their socks, nobody's more creative with wiping their asses than our military. So God bless them.
I mean, speaking of the military, when we talk about, you think like everybody's evolved. No. There are certain cultures now in 2023 who still do the old water on the hand, use the hand, water on the hand method. And I saw that not like firsthand, but when you're like going and you see the porta potties
still.
Yeah, same situation, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, we built a series.
No, they have toilet paper, not indoor plumbing, but they have toilet paper. Yeah,
right. But I'm talking about, we built a series of what essentially were outhouses at a training site when I was training Iraqis. And I remember walking through one day and there was just empty bottles strewn all about in the inside of all of those, because that's what they were doing.
Well, I think people,
and there was toilet paper available to them.
And they probably thought we were dirt bags. They're using this thin ass paper.
Well, we are. I bet in 100 years, when people look back, they're going to be like, I can't believe they used paper and flushed it down. Like, that's so bad for the environment type of thing, especially when bidets are available. Now that I have
the next thing will be a tiny little Bissell with rotating wet bubble soap that sucks everything away.
Or just goes straight into your ass.
Yep.
Like, it goes like half an inch in there and really roots out the issues. Last ones I'll mention, broken pottery.
That's what they were used to wipe.
Yeah. And seashells. Some cultures use seashells. Like, you don't have
a
anything else.
seashell
Why not
is
just dump sand in there?
that's like in grammar school. I can remember, like, if a kid got sick, the teacher would take the old coffee and like pour like grounded coffee grounds on it just to
Yeah.
get it solidified so they could clean it up. I don't know why I
It's a
remember
little bit
that,
like
but
kitty litter in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
essentially, yeah.
Oh,
All right,
good
let's talk
job.
about some things that are going around the world in round number 1, Kate.
Hey,
Anyway,
we got a lot of GWAP folks that listen to the show. If you have been having a little bit of nostalgia for the
Mhm.
days of the Iraq War, boy, have we got a treat for you.
We do.
Because we have troops that are getting attacked there again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Feels like old times.
Yeah, U.S. military folks are under attack in Iraq and Syria, and they are getting down on a naval destroyer as well. A lot of stuff going on right now. A U.S. Navy destroyer shot down multiple drones and cruise missiles off the coast of Yemen this past week. On Wednesday, the USS Carney opened fire on, and that is the one with all the Ferris wheels and the all that stuff
Elephant ears
on
at
it,
the chow
right?
hall.
The zipper
Yeah.
ride that goes right.
Candy apples, the
USS
whole
Carney
nine.
opened fire on 4 cruise missiles and 15 airborne drones for 9 hours. Initially, the Pentagon had their little briefing to the public. They're like, had a couple drones go by, just a couple hours, no big deal. It's a blip. But CNN was like, no, Queens. Let's be real. It was much longer than that. Okay.
Mhm.
Per CNN, citing an official familiar with the matter, the path and trajectory of the missiles had them en route to Israel. So Yemen's firing these things off, trying to go send them over to Israel, and we have a destroyer in the middle that's like, boop, boop, nope, 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 popping them all. Okay. Let me explain how our missiles work to people.
No, they go boop, boop, boop.
Yeah,
boop.
they go
Yeah,
bleep,
that's
bleep, bleep,
you
bleep.
nailed it.
The missiles were, and I'm going to say this wrong because I've seen this name before, the Houthi rebels. Houthi. The missiles were fired by Houthi rebels in Yemen. It would be the first attempt by any group in Yemen to strike at Israel in the aftermath of the October 7th terror attacks by Hamas 2 weeks ago. This comes after 2 days of drone attacks on American installations. On Wednesday, separate drone attacks were launched at 2 U.S. bases in Iraq, Al-Assad Air Base and Al-Harir Air Base.
Now, I don't know if Al-Assad still has the same quality of Apple turnover, but if you're listening and you're one of the troops there, highly recommend.
Highly recommend. And then on Thursday, drones and rockets were launched at U.S. installations in Syria and Iraq. 2 drones targeted the Al-Tanf Air Base in Syria, injuring some people on the installation. Unfortunately, one civilian contractor in Western Iraq died indirectly from a cardiac episode while taking shelter from the attack. Although the Pentagon said that cruise missiles and drones were launched by the Houthis in Yemen, the other attacks in Iraq and Syria have not been attributed to any particular group. Some have claimed credit for it, but the DoD has not ID'd any party as responsible. I would love to be like a shithole little rebel group who does not have the funds to fire at the U.S., but be like, that was totally us. That was us trying to take
one
credit.
of those. What were we going to do a while ago, Cons? I think it might have been before Kate was even on the show. We were going to have Militia Mondays where we bring in different wild militia members. But then that was way before 2016 when militia members became like a totally different thing.
Yeah.
So we were going to have that. We canceled that. That was good initiative, bad judgment on our parts too.
Took on more of a Babadook vibe after that.
It really did. So one of the next
yeah.
thing I want to do is that's that story. You know, I think most people are paying attention to what's going on in Israel and Palestine and really the entire Middle East at this point, at least the certain subset of it. I've gotten a lot of questions about the difference between the Houthis, the difference between Hezbollah and Hamas. So we want to try to break it down very, very Barney style. Now, if you're somebody like Jessica that was on the show a couple of weeks ago and has an intense knowledge, turn it off because we're not going to get.
We're only going to annoy you
like that. This is a huge explain it to me like I'm 5, just to give you some understandings about regionality and where these groups operate. So first off, we'll start with Hezbollah. Kate, what's that?
I like the way we say Hezbollah. It's reminding me of that little fella who.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I think it's Hezbollah.
Isn't it?
Is it really?
Hezbollah and Hezbollah. Hezbollah and Hezbollah.
He did the ice cream sundae thing with Caleb.
Yeah. Isn't it Hezbollah?
Hezbollah. Yeah, not to be
Hezbollah.
confused with
Hezbollah,
Hezbollah.
Hezbollah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's spelled the same. I just checked. Yeah. No, wait.
They're
No.
based
His name
out
is
of
spelled
Lebanon.
differently. Sorry. Go ahead, Kate.
Based out of Lebanon.
Lebanon.
Oh,
Totally. I don't think
let's go.
that would be.
Get your
Hell
head
That's
out of the
actually
gutter.
Amsterdam.
Scissors is their main weapon in Lebanon. Based in
Squirt
Lebanon.
guns too.
Yeah, a lot of squirt guns. My goodness. Southern part of the country, Shiite Muslim political and military organization. Stronghold in the southern part of the country, not just militant, but again, like I said, super political, and they receive their support from Iran. One of their main goals is resisting Israeli influence in Lebanon, advancing the interests of the Shiite community, and supporting the Assad regime in Syria. So, in essence, close buddies. They're like, Iran has a bunch of little minions over there on strings. Hezbollah is one of them. They're one of the little things on their Swiss Army knife is Hezbollah, okay? Is to put it that way. Big time anti-Israel sentiments, considered a terrorist organization by several countries. If you do recall the horrific 1983 U.S. Embassy and Marine barracks bombings in Beirut, Lebanon, Hezbollah were the ones who carried that out, and that killed over 300 people, including 241 U.S. military personnel. Israeli embassy bombing in Buenos Aires, Argentina in 1992. 94, another one targeting the Jewish community center in Buenos Aires, killing nearly hundreds of people. Hostage and hijackings, TWA Flight 847 in 1985. I could go on and on, but
they've been on it for like 40 years, 50 years at this point. They've been doing terrorist stuff.
Then you have Hamas. They're the Palestinian Sunni Muslim organization, strong presence in the Gaza Strip. And obviously, we know how all that went down. Their big thing is resistance to the Israeli occupation. They emerged as a significant player in Palestinian politics. Hamas's primary goal, establish a Palestinian state in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Some are sympathetic to them. Others consider them a terrorist organization. Some even say the people of Palestine are victim to Hamas because whatever. Yeah.
It equates like the Taliban. Taliban are the government, and the people of Afghanistan we like the people of Afghanistan. We don't like the Taliban. We don't like Hamas, but we like the people of Palestine.
Yeah.
That's how
histories of massacres and bombings and attacks on Israeli towns and cities. I mean, since they were elected a while back, but I was trying to learn about that too. They were elected, but the other party they were going against was split and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, also probably receiving funding from Iran, another tool in the Swiss Army knife of Iran. The Houthis, known as Ansar Allah, Shiite Muslim group with all these different sects of Islamic belief. Basically, all these different groups are all kind of reminds me of the power vacuum that was left when the Taliban first got booted out of when they were fighting with Russia and blah, blah, blah. They go against each other until they need to all work together for a common cause. And it seems like now they're all coming together against Israel in a big way. Is that the way anybody else is reading this, or am I an idiot? I don't fucking know.
Yeah, sort of. And the Houthis is kind of a strange situation because in 2018, I think it was 2018 or 2019, President Trump put them on the terror list. They designated them as a terrorist group. Yeah. Then President Biden took them off in 2021. And now a lot of the intelligence community are asking them to put them back on there. So it's like snip, snap, snip, snap.
Question. I feel like that should be a, tap, tap, no take backs type thing. Like, you get yourself on the terrorist list. Sorry, you're just there for lifetime. Because what did they start I don't know, going around the neighborhood and like cutting other people's lawns. So they were doing nice things for people. So they're like, maybe we can take them off the terrorist list. No, I think
you can change. I think you can change, but you need to prove yourself for about a decade. like Germany after World War II.
Okay.
You're not getting an invite to the G5 summit, Germany.
You
You
know
gotta
what it
fucking earn
was?
it after a while.
They sent the Bidens, you know those great peanut butter kiss cookies at Christmas
Yeah.
time?
Oh,
They
yeah.
sent a huge order of those over to the Bidens, and he was like, "Take them off the list. These are fantastic." Yeah.
I don't know about
We
that
know.
because they're responsible for a lot of the large-scale starvation that happens in Yemen. That conflict in Yemen, nobody ever talks about it, right? Like nobody in America ever gives it any thought whatsoever. 260,000 people have died by strikes alone, and another 130 are supposed to be killed because of the famine that's taking place there. That dynamic between Saudi Arabia and Yemen and how we supply bombs there goes so far under the radar. And I am tired of Saudi Arabia making us look like idiots. And we just go along with it. And they're just stringing us along, killing our journalists, making the Secretary of State wait, putting OPEC prices even higher. Like Saudi Arabia, I'm going to say Saudi Arabia is bad too.
Not great, but none of these groups have a good humanitarian record, obviously. And there's no denying to me, people are still touting these Hamas militants as like heroes in some way. Sorry, I don't want children and innocent people hurt or maimed on any side. What happened was horrific. They're absolutely terrorists, man. Like there's no way around it. What happened, more of the info is coming out. Like, sorry, you're pieces of shit. So I don't know. It's just been.
That's what I'm talking about. Like people shouldn't have to like overthink this. Like I think these are just bad groups of people that exist in this world, and they should be treated as such. I don't think there's any walking a fine line. I think it's pretty black and white from what I understand. And to what you said at the top, this stuff is very, very complicated. We just did it in like 10 minutes, but it's
Palestine is the perfect situation. No, but I also don't think what Hamas did was a good thing. But yeah, it's
you're allowed to have nuance, and definitely Hamas is bad. And I was thinking about it, and this is not a direct correlation by any means, and I'm not trying to make it a direct correlation, but I want to ask you guys, when do you think, like a rebel group, technically, like the Minutemen, when you rise up against the authoritative power that's over you, when do you think the international community supports that? Because there's got to be a point where in order to make that happen, there has to be something that causes that change, right? Like, when do you think in the international community you get to that point, or even just as your own person, where you're like, I kind of understand where they're coming from, like the Minutemen? Like, I don't know of any other place right now that I would say that, like North Korea, for example. If you had a group of North Koreans that rose up against their government and tried to assassinate different government officials, if they went after people in the military, they went after this and that, I think a lot of us would change our mind because it's a government that we don't like. Do you agree?
I think it's when I agree. I think it has to be when a government is oppressing its own people and committing atrocities against their own people. I think you could say that the government of North Korea is bad and doesn't treat their people well. Granted, they don't know any better, or maybe some of them do, and there's just nothing they can do about it. But I think it has to be some significant, consistent action that is predicated upon one group of people to have that group of people turn around like the Minutemen and rise up against them and work for their own independence. I think it has to be bad, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you lose people when you're killing kids and stuff.
Oh, for sure. No, that's why I said it's not.
But
equivalency.
Yeah, I'm a big dumb idiot. I truly don't know. I don't know. Still I've tried to do my reading. I'm listening to all of these podcasts, and I'm like, I think I'm forming a thought and an opinion on it, and then I'm like, oh fuck, I don't know. And like, I'm still just learning. I'm still trying to piece it all together. I mean, I was in Afghanistan, and I still don't understand why I was there a lot of the time. So
yeah, the geopolitical makeup of what was happening in the different tribes and how the different tribes were intersected, no idea. Like, people were way smarter than us that were supposed to be able to do that, and spoiler alert, they didn't do it well. They didn't
Right.
do it that well at all.
It's
So
interesting.
that's the best that we could do as far as that summary.
Yeah.
Maybe it was helpful. Probably not. I apologize. I worked on it for a while. It just
No,
didn't
I don't
pan
think
out
people come
exactly
to
the
us.
way I wanted it to.
I don't think they come to us for expert opinions. Only expert opinions.
I hope not. If that's the case, well, America is.
Well, that's what we bring
big-
experts
big
on.
trouble.
I heard from multiple people that when we had Jessica on, how helpful that was in breaking everything down and how great she was.
You know what that segment was helpful for? For if I'm a higher up in DC who understands all that stuff and I want to know what like Hank Hill thinks of it. And what is the average person understanding and why are they thinking it's going on right now? And it would be like a sociology professor watching three monkeys try and turn a computer on.
The files are in the computer.
And you know there has to be some like intel folks that are listening that are like, what in the fuck?
They're just banging their heads against the wall.
Hit us up.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to round number 2. We're going to talk about North Korea again. What's going on, Kate?
Boy, oh boy. Army Private Travis King, as we know, back in July, ran across the border. He was supposed to be going home to the United States after getting into trouble in South Korea. Fought somebody in a club, then attacked, gave South Korean police officers a hard time and caused a ton of damage in the back of one of their cop cars. And like, this guy was just a fucking problem, troop.
Before you keep going, Kate, if you're having problems and you're doing not great and you need to talk to somebody, I would go with our friends at BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Do you ever feel like your brain is getting in its own way? Like you know what it should do, what's good for you, but you just can't do it? Yes. Therapy helps you figure out what's holding you back so you can work for yourself instead of working against yourself. I mean, I think that line about you know what you should do and you need that extra push and you need somebody to validate that and explain how you do that. And if it's something that you're going through to get you to that point, how to have coping skills to get you through all that stuff. I think BetterHelp is better than anybody at doing that. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. Switch therapists at any additional time. For no additional charge. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/0 to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/0. So Travis King.
Not a good guy.
No, Kate has a mouthful of food and typically cons. I don't abide it, but she's pregnant. She's like fucking 80 weeks pregnant at this point.
Yeah, I don't know how you haven't had this kid yet.
Anything to me.
She could take a blender out and I'd be like, no, it's fine. Do whatever you need to do.
It's terrible. Travis King crossed the border. Then they were sending him back to the States. He did a little time in the brig over at South Korea prison, whatever. Then the U.S. military escorts him to the airport to go back home to face the music for the military. But he dips out. He doesn't get on that plane. Instead, he gets with the tour group, runs over to North Korea, as we all know. So, North Korea, you think they're going to keep this guy forever. They've got themselves as a pawn. They don't do that. On September 27th, they say, we're actually going to send this guy back to you free of charge. We're not even asking for a prisoner
fucking
swap.
Weirdo. We don't want him.
We're not asking for nothing. He was later sent to Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio, Texas for medical and mental evaluations. And part of me was like, had empathy for this guy because I was like, something must have really been going wrong to
knowingly walk into North Korea. Yeah, you're not working with a full deck.
Right. Well, I don't feel bad for him anymore. Okay.
Nope.
King has now been charged with desertion for being absent from the Army without authority from July 18th to September 27th. He faces 7 other charges, including making a false official statement, disobeying orders for a series of incidents before he crossed into North Korea. For one incident last October, King faced charges of insubordination and assault for allegedly punching a lieutenant, kicking a staff sergeant, grabbing the arm of a sergeant, accused of trying to escape custody from the same incident. And here's the kicker. Here's where I am fully out on King, where fuck this guy, I wish he was still in North Korea. He's also accused of viewing sexually explicit content involving a minor on Snapchat.
How is that not the lead? How do we lead with the things that he did wrong was a false official statement? You lead with the child pornography thing, in my
Child
opinion.
porn, yeah.
That's the reason why he did it, because with child porn in the military, more so than on the civilian side, you won't have a single person on that jury that will have an ounce of sympathy for you. That's the
No.
reason why he left. And I cannot believe the Associated Press buried that lead. Like, that is the definition of burying the lead. That's
Yeah,
the
he
reason why.
he viewed child porn on Snapchat about a week before he crossed into North Korea. The 1st Armored Division issued a statement Friday confirming that King had been charged with violations of the UCMJ. King's mother has issued a statement saying she's very concerned about her son's mental health, and she asked people to afford him the presumptions of innocence. Nope. No.
I mean, it's a
Not with
pretty
child
dead
porn.
giveaway when you're headed to old North Korea. It's not like you're in Shawshank Redemption and you're going to a palm tree so you can hang out with your buddy Red after you get
Yeah.
out of prison. That's not what it's like at all. One of the things that I've liked about this story, not anything but the story, but the response from the government, is that for the first time in 75 years, they investigated him while he was gone for criminal action. It wasn't just to try to get him back, but they knew that he was doing more criminal stuff. Probably because he punched his lieutenant, his staff sergeant, another guy, and tried to run out of prison and then punched an officer that was in South Korea. That might be the reason why they're doing it.
I'll tell you what, there's probably a lot of people listening like, do you know how many times I wanted to punch my lieutenant and didn't?
Yeah. That's the reason why so many people didn't join, because they would have punched a Joe sucker in the face.
Yeah.
Nobody yells at me.
Not good. And there's also a big chunk where they're talking to his attorney and like, good luck defending this piece of shit, because not a good time. Not a good
Also,
time.
the people in San Antonio at Brooke Army Middle School Center, if you've been there for a while, you deal with this dude and Bo Bergdahl, you need a race.
Wow, yeah. Or there's got to be some sort of ribbon we can create for them for their uniform to denote.
Good point,
Yeah.
Collins. Yeah, we do need a ribbon for that. But yeah, Travis King's still doing dumb shit. I'll be interested to see what kind of punishment he gets. I imagine it'll be swift and severe, because, I mean, I don't know if you guys talked a lot about status of forces agreements whenever you were in. Did you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, like, spending time in a different country that's not in a war zone, like in Japan, they have a status of forces agreement where you it's a little bit like diplomatic immunity, but they have an agreement with the host country. So if something happens and it's minor, like minor-ish, they're going to return you to American custody so you can face the punishment from there. However, when it's egregious, or whenever they view it as like a felony type of thing, sometimes they won't. Like Japan is doing it right now, even though, and South Korea has done it before. They don't always turn over. But with that, North Korea, legit possibility of causing an international incident, like in a big way. And
it's giving them a reason. They're sitting there going, I wish a motherfucker would, and then a motherfucker does.
Yeah, I almost lost my thought explaining the status of forces agreement and how I was going to tie it back in.
No, you landed that plane, though. That was good. That was good. What do you all think about, though, when an attorney says, that everyone is afforded a fair trial and presumed innocent until proven guilty?
That's part of it.
Yeah, I think that's the number one line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what you got to say, because that's the truth. I mean, you still have to stick with that no matter how you feel. So,
yeah. I would suck to be a defense attorney, because you have to hate like a majority of your clients. Right?
Well, so interestingly enough, I asked one time, someone I know very well, he represented some folks back in the day who were tied to organized crime. And I was curious. I was like, how do you defend someone of that nature when whatever it is they're being accused of, probably true. And what he said to me was, you have to ensure that they are properly tried and given all of the rights afforded by the Constitution. So you look at the Constitution and you say, is what's going on here fair and legal according to the laws of the land? And you kind of defend them against that. You don't necessarily say like, oh, well, you necessarily believe in what they did or you think what they did is okay. You just are saying, I'm going to ensure that they get a fair trial. And that's how he
Oh,
explained
sure.
it to me.
I understand the principle behind being a defense attorney. I'm talking about being in the room with some of these people, like the dude that did the Parkland shooting, for example, like having to go be his attorney, and you're sitting there with him for hours preparing for this trial, knowing the type of person that he is. Man, that's got to be brutal. Brutal, because you're not a bad person. If you take those cases, they need to be defended too. But having to do it, actually being the person that does it.
Yeah, well, and sometimes, I mean, if you're a public defender, like you're just assigned the case. It's not like you said, you raise your hand and said, hey, I'll take that one. So, you're just built a little differently, I suppose.
Completely agree. Here on ZBT, we already know that Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. And we know that Morgan & Morgan has a proven track record of fighting for the people, with over $15 billion recovered for their clients. And we know that submitting an injury claim with Morgan & Morgan is easy and it's free. But did you know that they are the official injury law firm partner of the UFC? Attention ZBT fans, UFC 296 is coming up, and thanks to Morgan & Morgan, you can win tickets to the action. Whether it's legal battles or octagon battles, Morgan & Morgan has got you covered. They're giving one lucky winner $2,000 and 2 tickets to UFC 296 to see Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington, which will be a great fight. Big stylistic difference if you're a UFC guy like me. One is a stand-up dude, and Leon Edwards, a really good kickboxer, and the other one is a great wrestler, and those usually end up in really good matches. So if you want to check that out, do it, and you could do it possibly for free, and you can enter by texting ZBT to For the People. That's 484-373-6742 for your chance to win $2,000 and 2 tickets to UFC 296 in Las Vegas. Text ZBT to For the People. That's 784-373-6753, or click the link to the description if you're watching on our YouTube. There's no purchase necessary. It's open to legal residents of the 48 contiguous United States and DC who are 18 plus. The sweepstakes ends November 20th, 2023. For entry and official rules, visit morganufc.com/p.com. Sweep.com. I don't know why that was so hard for me. And it's not October, it's November. It's November 20th. Because I don't know if you're watching on the YouTube, my eyes kind of perked up. I was like, how are they going to do this if it's already over? That's already gone by. No. You got to do it by November. You have plenty of time, but do it right now so you don't forget, like we would save rounds and alibis typically. Kate, what do you got for save rounds? And no, you're going to go last today, Kate, because I need you to really buckle in and think about how this last week of pregnancy has been going, because it's got to be the end. So before we do that, you gather your pregnancy brain thoughts. Okay. We're going to go with Cons save round alibis.
So I was down at the LSU Army game. I'm sure people saw the score, 62-0. There's no two ways about it. Just not a great game. We didn't play well. LSU is extremely talented. I mean, you're going to see a lot of those guys playing on Sunday, so your hat's off to them. But 3 things I do want to mention about my trip down there, which was fabulous. Everybody down there is just so hospitable and so nice, as you could imagine. Most of whom, the person who was probably more hospitable than anyone, my guy Kylie, he was an enlisted airman after high school, and then after the Air Force took his GI Bill, went to LSU. He was an equipment manager on the team. I was with the team in 2019 when they won a national championship. He showed us around the operations facilities, the locker room, which was unbelievably cool. They have these like seats that no one else in college football has. It's basically like a first class pod in a plane, and they made that into a locker. Very, very cool. And he was just so gracious with his time and taking us around, and then brought us on the field before the game. I sent you guys a picture. I was chatting up with the governor of Louisiana there. And then he had us in very, very nice seats. We were in a sweet, unbelievable experience. Outside of the final score of the game, the experience was first class. So I just want to say thank you to Kylie. Awesome. Speaking of experience during the game, so I am just a sucker for schools that are just kind of like part of college football and the places where you have to get to if you're a college football fan. And LSU, Death Valley, definitely one of those places. When the entire stadium is singing Callin' Baton Rouge by Garth Brooks and they're blasting it over the speakers, it's kind of like when they sing Rocky Top at Tennessee. Like anytime in a stadium, and you see this all the time in Europe when they do the soccer chants, but when the whole stadium is doing the same thing together, I always think that's so cool. That was a very cool part. And then
my favorite one that I remember from soccer games is right after Queen Elizabeth died, and they were like, "Lizzie's in a box, Lizzie's in a box, Lizzie's in a box."
The soccer fans, they got it down.
They do.
But so Friday night, we're out at a bar, and there's two female graduates, West Point graduates, who had just graduated within the last year or two. Chatting with them, really nice. And at what point, they ordered a round of shots, not for me, for themselves and two other people. And when the bartender came like, whose tab am I putting that on? They pointed to me and I didn't even recognize it. So I paid for a round of shots for these young. And here's the reason I did not get overly upset about it. Because normally if someone did that to me in a bar, I'd be like, what are you doing? The amount of times since I graduated in 2006 that older graduates have bought me drinks. Yeah. I mean, it totals in probably the thousands in terms of things that have been bought for me. So the fact that I could pay that then forward and keep that alive.
You're the old guy now.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm the old dude now. Now I'm the old grad who has to pay for drinks.
So like they used to do it to the old guys. Brother, that's
now
you.
That's me. Yeah. Unfortunately, but it was still just overall really, really cool trip. Thank you to everybody at LSU who took great care of me and all my buddies and my dad. We had an unbelievable time. Again, despite the score. I recommend anybody, if you haven't been, go to see a game at LSU. It was a very nice time.
My baby dad is an LSU dropout.
Really?
He went for a year.
Yeah.
Why LSU?
I don't know.
Party school.
Party school, I guess. He went for a year and dropped out and then went to JMU with the rest of the fellas that he hangs out with now. Anyway.
Yep.
All right,
so that's all I got.
You. Oh, no, I'll go.
Yeah. It's bucket list for me too, though, to go to a game at LSU. That? I was just saying LSU is bucket list for me too, to go party down there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still in that age. I can party.
Mm-hmm. I don't really have any save rounds. Me and Cons are going down to do some stuff in Miami this week for the VFW. Looking forward to that. Always like hanging out with those types of veterans, some older folks, some folks that are younger. They have the whole kit and caboodle down there and they need some help. So all of that New Amsterdam vodka that we talked about for the last like 6 months in the summertime, we talked about it a lot. All that's coming to fruition. Kate obviously probably shouldn't fly at this point, so she's going to stay back.
I can't wait to see how it turns out,
this
though.
is hopefully the last week
Sorry, something I learned.
Again?
No, I think we're okay. But something I learned about that whole, like, hey, you can't fly in your third trimester. Initially, I thought it was like there's something like physically, prohibiting you from getting on an airplane, like the pressure changes,
like the
whatever.
pressure would make you blow up like Violet Beauregard.
Yeah, something like that. What I learned when Alex was pregnant is like, no, it has nothing to do with that. It's like at any point during your third trimester, you can give birth. Mm-hmm. So they don't want you to be somewhere that is not your home station, your home hospital with your own doctors. So that's why you can't fly in the third trimester.
It's because nobody on the plane trying to go see their grandma in Terre Haute wants to see my bussy.
Yeah, exactly. So
True. But if you were an OBGYN, it might be like us, where it's your wish a motherfucker would moment.
Oh, right? But no. Yeah, probably.
You help somebody give birth on a plane, you're a legend.
That is definitely a great story. Speaking of, though, for those who've watched that Kelsey documentary on Amazon, which is great, when Kelsey's wife was pregnant, she was in her third trimester, the OBGYN flew with them to the Super Bowl when the Eagles got to the Super Bowl. So,
yes. In case she went into labor on the plane.
Yes.
Whatever.
Yes.
Yes. Or at the game or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet the TikTok moms went crazy over that.
Oh, they probably crucified her.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Must be nice to have your own blah, blah, blah. I don't even know who my doctor is yet, which is crazy. Anyways.
That is wild.
Yeah.
You would think that'd be like day one sort of thing. Like, oh, I got to find a doctor out here.
Second pregnancy in a row where my main doctor was also pregnant. This one had her baby. And I've just been seeing a physician's assistant for 3 months now. And she's like, I don't know who you're going to get when you go in to give birth. And I'm like, okay. Anyway, I saw something I talk about this all the time. I lurk in the women's Marine and female Marines Facebook pages because it kind of gives you like a finger on the pulse of what is happening in the military right now. And generally, it's wonderfully supportive groups that are fantastic, and it links the veteran community with the active duty community. And a lot of us older vets can show our support in different ways. Sometimes there's women traveling for, what do you call it when you get fapped out to like a different base for whatever? And like I saw one the other day where a Marine forgot her like breast pump parts and reached out, and these veterans who lived in the area where she was doing her training was like, I'll meet you at the gate. I have exactly what you need. Like, it's like a really cool community, like good stuff.
That is cool.
A lot of times though, and these groups are private. So like I never screenshot, I never share any of the stuff from within these groups, because sometimes they share about like toxic commands and toxic partners and stuff like that. And everybody's pretty good about keeping it on the DL. But I had to share this because sometimes I'll tell you guys the shit these women post in there about my command's trying to make me return after giving birth 2 weeks ago because they just refused to read the whatever. My command's making me go to PT at 4 a.m., even though they know I have 3 kids and daycare doesn't open till 6. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, guys, it's so demoralizing to see how this is going. I saw a good one. And so I feel like whenever I see a good one, I got to share it because this is a wonderful example of how things should be for men or women in the military. Hey, ladies, just wanted to show some super great leadership from my Master Sergeant, Gunny, Lieutenant, and Staff Sergeants. They've been nothing but supportive during my deployment. Basically, she has very young kids and has been deployed. Her husband is at home doing everything he can, but he also works. And if you know how tough it is to get even just one kid to daycare in the morning or to school or to wherever, with several, it's an absolute shit show. So she had asked, there's a corporal in her unit who's like a superstar who's back home. Can you help my family with drop-offs in the morning? And part of that, this corporal was like, yes, I would love to help you, but that's going to make me late. Even though I don't have kids, I'm helping you guys. So this Marine who was deployed reached out to her command and was like, this corporal in our unit's going to be helping, but now they're going to be late to a bunch of stuff as well. And this was their response from her Master Sergeants, Staff Sergeants, Lieutenants. Let us know if we can assist you in any other way. Yeah, dude, let us know if you need help anywhere. We'll work with them, the corporal, and let us know if you need anything. Hope you're enjoying your deployment. One team, one fight. We'll all help out where we can. That was so refreshing to me.
Yeah.
It's so easy to do.
Because, I pictured right away several staff NCOs I knew who'd be like, nope, that corporal needs to be here when everybody else is, blah, blah, blah. Chaps. Yeah. Like, I just know this response is not, at least was not the norm when I was in. I think my command was pretty awesome, but like, it generally just wasn't the vibe. And it's so refreshing to be like, yes, it is difficult to be deployed, especially if you have kids. We're going to make this better because you're going to be better on your deployment if your brain isn't like, oh my God, my family's falling apart at home, and we're going to help you any way we can. And I just wanted to shout that out because I thought that was such a wonderful example, and how if you're listening and you're a leader, like that's how it should be. So I'm rambling, but it just felt so good to see something good on that page. God.
No, that is nice. That is nice. Just to see people like taking it, not like black and white, like, oh, well, you have to be here. It's like, here's the situation. Let's review the situation and respond accordingly.
Yep. So that was good. And then finally, I don't know if I'll be here next week or not. I don't know what's going on. I was having contractions last week. Once I said to Chaps, I was like, I think it's starting now. I was like, I think I'm having, they went on for like a day and a half and they were starting to get kind of regular. And then I woke up the next morning, nothing. I was like, fuck. Even this morning at like 4 a.m, I woke up and I was like, this is it. This is like intense. And you can tell when it's different than and then that was it. It was just like a one-off. I was like, what the fuck was that? So the limit for a C-section is 5,000 grams, 10 pounds. And that's where this hospital is like, we don't do vaginal birth once they hit 5,000 grams. Okay. And they were like, 4 weeks ago at your last scan, you were at 4.5, 4,500 grams. Like this baby. So they're
Oh,
probably,
you're like 600 grams. You're way high grams.
yeah, so I really would prefer not to have a C-section. Not for any like moral, a real birth is vaginal. Out your pussy hole.
No, but the recovery, the recovery
That's
is
exactly what
difficult.
they say. It's about your pussy hole. Yeah.
But I just the last time, even though the recovery part after the drugs wore off was horrendous, going into labor naturally was kind of fun. It was like, oh, what's this? It's time. It's like, it was exciting. And then getting the drugs and listening to jazz and looking out at Central Park while they're like, push. And I was like, okay. I was watching a golden retriever play fetch as they're like, you want to reach down and touch them? I was like, sure. It was a treat. It was a delight. I love my ice cold hospital apple juice cups. I love hospital pudding. The whole thing just kind of went the way I wanted it to until a couple days later when I discovered I tore my entire vagina apart. Okay. That would be ideal. That's probably
This has
not
got to
happen.
be hindsight bias. Like hindsight bias. Like you've made it this beautiful thing in your brain, and really it was probably terrible.
It was horrific.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, but I really don't want. I've never had a surgery like that before. Have either of you guys had? I know when they dug a
C-section?
bullet
No.
out of you and
No, I've never been cut open. Knock on wood.
Chaps, have you, besides getting the bullet taken out of your arm?
That's the only major surgery I've had.
Yeah, and so I don't know. It just freaks me out for some reason, and I don't know. I'm just in my head. Whatever happens, happens. But it does freak me out if I go natural and shit happens quick, and he's this big. They even were like, they measured my stomach the other day, and they're like, oh yeah, oh shit, oh damn. So I'm just ready, is all I'm saying.
Well,
All right.
if this is your last episode, I want to guess. Whoa, belly pick. You gotta watch the YouTube, Kelly.
Oh, the security guy
Flash
just
the
walked
belly.
out of the elevator. I was like,
Perfect. You're not embarrassed at all. I'm not a face red at all. But before we go, if this is your last episode for a couple weeks, I want to point out something that me and Cons notice and everybody notices around Kate. Fantastic mother. Like when the amount that she loves her son is so evident in how she carries herself, what's important to her. And if you've been listening to the show for a long time, 3 years ago, before she had cash, and when she found out that she was going to have cash, she was nervous about being the one that was going to set up the appointments, being the one that was going to do daycare, only having like 4 or 5 onesies. And to go from that and that level of fear to the kind and quality mom she is right now is really a testament to how much she cares. So whoever this baby is, if he's 6,000 grams or whatever, very, very fortunate to have Kate as a mother.
Yeah, because it's like if you took Kate and then Kate as a mom, opposites. Yeah. As a mom, she's got it all squared away, figured out. She
does not need
squared away
Kate
right and tight.
for me, but I'm
own
able to
self,
scrape it together for him.
Yeah,
I still haven't been to a dentist in quite some time.
That's fine. That's fine.
But thank you so much. That means a lot, and especially coming from you, who I consider an amazing parent, and both of you. I mean, Cons, you're making people look bad over there. You're crushing it.
I want to say something very explicitly. That is absolutely my intention.
Good. Oh. Hell yeah, you're crushing it. But thank you guys, and hopefully, maybe I will be here next week. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
You don't mean hopefully. You don't mean that at all. There's no chance you mean hopefully. I watch Kate. Now that I'm in the office with her, it's kind of funny sometimes to walk by when she's on the yak, and people will be laughing it up, and you'll see Kate like adjusting her seat, like ha ha ha. Little Sass is hilarious.
Yeah,
but you can tell she's in pain.
It hurts my
not funny, but it's like, why are you still here, lady? Go home.
I think it's creeping people out actually that I'm still coming in.
But you got to do the first yak in the new studio.
They threw me a baby shower today.
Yeah, that was nice.
They got him.
Well, we'll see you. Maybe not. You'll see me and Cons for sure next week. Not sure about.
We'll be there.
Kate. Yep. Sound the retreat.
Thanks, Japs.